Okay, today we're going to be going into the ancient texts and what was written long ago. Now, this is Roger, Mudfossil University. Now, this is the Internet Sacred Text Archive. Outstanding place to go if you want to research any of the ancient texts and any of the ancient people and what was done back then. Now, look at this. These are the topics they cover. This is just absolutely amazing. Now, it's everything. Now, I come down here to the classics. I like to look back at these guys. Now, Hesiod is the guy that I'm going with for the start of everything, which is apparently what he was. Now, look, this is Ovid, however you want to, Plato, Plutarch, all of these guys are the Archimedes. Look, this is all the ones that wrote the original stories of the original histories, and even in their times, they were considered not telling the truth, some of them, because they were telling stories that had been passed down that were so incredible that people just couldn't accept them. And that's what's happened now. The things that are true are not accepted, and the mud fossils have proved all of this. And these texts talk about mud fossils. They talk about it. Luke 19:40 says that when nobody will listen, the stones will cry out. And that's what's going on now. Now, this is the story that we're going to be looking into, is Hesiod's 5 Ages of Man. Where is it? I thought I had it here. Oh yeah, here it is, right. In the Works and Days, Hesiod divided time into 5 ages. All right, Golden Age ruled by Cronus, and it goes on. This is unbelievable. It's virtually the same as the Bible and everything else, as the Sumerian texts. As everything has a commonality to it. Buddhism, Hinduism. We're going to go through all this, and I'll show you. It just all works together. So we're going to read through about Hesiod, just about how he came about and when he lived, and a couple just quick things about him. Not a whole lot. And then we're going to go into what he had to say about the creation of Earth and the 5 ages. Very, very simple, actually. And it's extremely enlightening. All right, well, I'm just going to read this to you. It's once again from the sacred texts, who I appreciate being able to do this with their stuff, and I hope it's okay. They do a great job, and I'm very appreciative of it, and I hope everyone else is. Now, here's what it says here, and this is the theogony in Greek. The theogony, the beginning of everything. And so Hesiod lived in the 8th century BC, so he was an early guy. I mean, even Herodotus was a 450 in that area. Now, so probably about the same time or shortly after Homer. Okay, so they were founding fathers of history. He refers to himself as a farmer in Boeotia, a region of central Greece, but other than that, we know little about him. His poetry codified the chronology and genealogy of Greek myths. Now, when they talk about poetry, it's not like writing little silly poems. They talked in phrases that were exquisite and elegant and not boring and tedious like academics write. They would talk in very, very flowery, flowing phrases. That's what they called their poems. Now, but they were extremely enlightening, and they were extremely powerful and extremely to the point. Now, Works and Days and the Theogony are only 2 complete works we have of Hesiod, other than the few lines of a poem called The Shield of Hercules. Now, in Works and Days, Hesiod divided time into 5 ages. The Golden Age ruled by Cronus, when people lived extremely long lives, like Adam and so forth, 100 years, 900 years, without sorrow of heart. The Silver Age ruled by Zeus, the Bronze Age, and an epic of war, the Heroic Age, the time of the Trojan War, the last of the Iron Age, and the corrupt present age that we live in right now. And he wrote about all this. And where do you hear how it rolls out here? This is not good. And it is similar to Hindu and Buddhism concepts of the Kali Yuga. The idea of a golden age has likewise been profound impact on Western thought. Works and Days also discuss pagan ethics, extols hard work, and lists lucky and unlucky days and months for various activities in the zodiac and things. They would do that. I mean, apparently there is some validity to that stuff, because everything else I found out is pretty damn accurate. Anyway, the theology presents the descent of the gods. They were really powerful. They came down. They started getting weaker and weaker, and they started inbreeding and all that stuff. And along with the works of Homer, and by the way, that's why they used to marry their sisters and brothers and things like that, because they wanted to keep that blood amongst themselves. The other blood from the mortals was contaminated, and they made them into demigods and less powerful gods and weaklings and things like that. And it ended up, sapping all the power out of their eternal immortal lives, or whatever, however you look at it. Anyway, the theology presents the descent of the gods, and along with the works of Homer is one of the key source documents for Greek mythology. It is the genesis of Greek mythology. It gives the clearest presentation of the Greek pagan creation myth. Greek pagan creation myth. All right, the clearest presentation, starting with the creatrix goddesses, chaos and earth. That's the Gaia concept. From whom descended all the gods and men. It mentions hundreds of individual gods, goddesses, demigods, elementals, and heroes. It is absolutely bizarre, but I'm telling you, I think it's true. And we're going to be looking into what it said. That's my opinion about it. You have any opinion you want, but when you see what it says and how things rolled out and what is seen on the face of this planet right at the moment, that's where I'm going. Okay, another great site, GreekGods.org. Okay, and this absolutely fabulous, and they go through over here where you can look into the 5 ages of man and so forth. Now, let's look at the 5 ages of man. Very concise. They've boiled it down to the exact things that you want to think about, and here's what they've got. This was the story by Hesiod. Don't remember now, the 8th century BC, 5 ages of man. Now, I'm going to just read it to you because this isn't that long, but it's very, very important to understand this. Well, in my mind, you may have a whole nother take on it. Anyway, the story of the ages of man can be found in Hesiod's Works and Days, translated by H.G. Evelyn White. Between the verses 109 and 210, starting with the verse 106, after previously talking about the story of Prometheus, the theft of godly fire, and creation of Pandora, which consequently brought mischief among other bad things to the mortals. Hesiod believes that mischief is the reason why his brother Perseus is holding back from work and rather bribes the corrupt judges to get the easy wealth from his brother. At the end of the story, in verse 105, he says that there is no way to escape the will of Zeus, who punished both Prometheus and mankind for that deceit. In verse 106, it is evident that Hesiod wants to hold on to that last thought, where there is no escape to the will of Zeus, when preparing to tell the story of the ages of man. So what he's really saying is Zeus is the god. Zeus is the god of gods. But there was a whole slew of gods back then, and it was an absolute horrifying zoo. I mean, there was all kind of animal. It's absolutely amazing what was created on this earth, and I believe they were true. Now, so here, and take the relations of this to other stories that you have read, similar to like the Bible, the Sumerians, all these different things. Now, here's what it says for the Golden Age. This is the beginning. When the deathless gods created the golden race of men, the deathless gods, these are the immortals. So if they're deathless, they're still around somewhere. It was a time of prosperity and peace that allowed all living beings, now listen to this carefully, it allowed all living beings to live in harmony. All living beings, not just humans, to be happy and in love. It said that in this age, animals could speak with human voice and no one would grow old or get ill. All right, Jesus was, he could make people not sick. And this is the kind of stuff we're talking about here. Together they lived in abundance of everything. You shall have everything. You're going to be provided for. Even when their time was over, the death came during sleep without any pain. Plus they lived, well anyway, this time was placed during the rule of Titans, where Cronus was a leader after dethroning his father Uranus. But instead of living in peace, Cronus, after hearing the prophecy of being overthrown by one of his children, went and ate 5 of his children when they were born, except for Zeus, who got away. He later came and set his brothers and sisters free. They then rebelled against their father, and it all escalated to a 10-year war called the Titan Monarchy, which more or less ended the Golden Age in destruction. So it sounds like a 1,000 years or so was everything was good. Now let's go into the Silver Age. Now I'm not saying 1,000 years. I don't know how long it was, but there was a long time. A pretty good time that it was good. Now we'll go into the Silver Age. What happened then? When the Golden Age had ended after that war, the golden race still existed and roamed the earth as benevolent spirits. There was some good guys who were still hanging around. The war where the Olympians had won was over and peace was achieved. It was time for the gods to create a new silver generation of mankind. This silver race was said to be inferior in all terms to the golden race. And, inferior in all terms. I tell you, the Mitchell Hedges skull has the most perfect teeth I've ever seen in my life. And so maybe that was, maybe they were more perfect and then they started having bad teeth. All right, the silver race was said to be inferior in all terms to the golden race. They were immature and needed 100 years to grow up. But when they finally grew up, they lived short lives because of their foolishness. To keep sinning and not listening and honoring the gods who were losing patience and not listening and honoring the gods and not honoring them, who were losing patience, and at some point Zeus became so mad he destroyed the silver race beings and ended the silver race. All right, so Zeus gets upset, wipes all these guys out because they were not being thankful. Literally, I'm telling you, these people these gods expect us to be thankful, and I'm pretty thankful myself. I've had a really good life, I can tell you that, and been very, very, very blessed, so I have no complaints. Now, Bronze Age. Beings of Silver Age were sent to the underworld. Now, listen to this, is very cool. Sent to the underworld and became known as the blessed spirits of Hades. Now, we always said they locked them down there for bad stuff. Now, I don't know about that. Zeus was again bored and decided to make a 3rd generation. Now, you hear that? He's bored. And this is what when we get to the Age of Heroes, this is going to play into it. Being of Silver Age, beings of the Silver Age sent underworld and became known as the blessed spirits of Hades. This is hell to us. Zeus was again bored and decided to make a 3rd generation called the brazen race of men, bronze men. These bronze men were strong and warlike, and still are. They had weapons and armor and drones and bombs and nukes and anyway, they had weapons and armor of bronze and even houses of bronze and machine gun turrets of bronze. They worshipped the destructive works of Ares, and instead of bread, ate hearts of their fellow men. In the end, they were consumed by their own rage, destroying each other, and were sent to the underworld for eternity, never see the light again. These were the guys that they got rid of. The bronze guys. Anyway, according to the theogony of the Apollodorus Bibliocathea, the Bronze Age was ended by the deluge or the Great Flood. All right, so here we go. There's the Great Flood. And what happened after the Great Flood? So listen to this now. According to the theogony, the Bronze Age was ended by the deluge or the Great Flood, which I'm saying is a Great Flood. And I am also saying that is the source of the KT boundary layer. And everything died on Earth, and basically not everything, but most everything died and was wet and soaked and waterlogged in the water, and the clay surface of the skin eroded, which has iridium and all the other things in it, and create a layer over here. It's like a gigantic bathtub ring. That's all it is. It's clay. He says, oh, well, it's clay. It's not a meteor. And I have stuff that is fractured quartz here too. And I show them every time. They're around here somewhere. But I show them. There's nothing, no special fractured quartz they talk about. So anyway, that's just another story going on there. The Great Flood happened 4,300 years ago, approximately, and when it did, it drowned all the people. They turned into waterlogged, wet masses of flesh, and the bones become the calcium and so forth, and the phosphates and all that different, really reactive chemistry turns into source rock, which is petroleum products, really, and. Anyway, it's a process of breaking it down where the bones are not preserved, but the fleshy parts are. That's what the mud fossils are, and that's what we found from all preserved as a means of as a result of the Great Flood. The Great Flood soaked them for a year or whatever it was, and they just became so soaked. And when they do that, the things that would normally decay and decompose and rot and bubble away and be infested by maggots and little things, you're in the water, in salt water, same condition that the inside of your body is in right now. It's the exact same condition. The inside of your body wants to be at that pH and wet. All right, so all the things that are going to gas off that normally would be transferred to your lungs and to your kidneys and out your digestive system, well, now they're sitting there rotting. Well, what do? They move into the water. That's called going into solution. They do not explode your body. Maggots do not attack your body. There's very little on Earth that's alive now, and this created the erosion of the outer fleshy skin, which is kaolin clays, very clearly understood now, and that and sand, which is the silicon in your skin, which is 50 times more dense. So that gave us all the sand on Earth, and it gave us that gave a lot of sand, and it gave us a lot of clay. These things were all there before because everything was from life, but this gave us an infusion of these things on the Earth in this layer. And iridium is part of that because all the transition metals that there are in your body. They are used to transfer. They are transition. They jump one little tiny molecule, one little tiny electron to hold on to things to deliver them in your body, and they pick up other things. That is the nature of iron and all of the other metals that are in your body. They're transition elements, and they are built to do that job of delivering things. Enzymes create them. Bacteria creates the enzymes. That's another old story. Let's get back to the Age of Heroes. Now, so we got the Great Flood. Zeus is really disappointed, so he creates this great blood that destroys everybody. And out of this, there's because they were doing cannibalism and all that crazy stuff. By the end of the time he did this, there was literally no food left on Earth. They ate everything. They ate all the people. They ate each other. They drank each other's blood. They ate all the dinosaurs that were here. They ate everything that was alive. All right, so now he floods them. Now, after that, there's a story about Pyrrha and Deucalion in the ancient Greek myths, who were preserved in that flood. And in that flood, when they came out of it, they repopulated Earth by throwing stones over their back. That's what it says. Now, the Age of Heroes. This is Marvel comic book stuff. And remember back here it says Zeus was bored? Well, I think he got bored again and said, let's make some really crazy stuff. And crazy they did. The Age of Heroes was absolutely amazing. So let's look at it. After the Bronze Age, Zeus created another race, an honorable race of heroes. He said, I'm going to put some heroes out. They're going to just Batman and Robin and all these guys would be out there doing their jobs. Well, they were, all the Greek heroes that we know about, and there's a ton of them. They were noble and respected the gods. Okay, people looked up to them. They said, "Oh, Hercules, fabulous guy." All these people. Among them were also individuals with divine qualities called demigods. They were capable of amazing things, and they were gigantic. Some of them. All right, most of them died in wars such as Trojan War and 7 against Thebes. The soul of those who passed away went to a special place called the Elysian Fields, or an island of the blessed somewhere in the underworld, surrounded by deep swirling oceanus. It was a place where the souls would remain forever and live a blessed and happy life in the same role they had enjoyed in life. I've heard that story somewhere before. Now, it is also said that Zeus eventually promoted his father Cronus from the depths of Tartarus to become a ruler of the souls of these righteous and significant people. That and when you start to look into these heroes, Athena was born right out of the head of Zeus, with her armor and her shield and her sword and everything ready to go. Hephaestus cracked Zeus's head wide open with an axe, and she just popped out, ready to go, and she was tough. And I'm telling you, it's as crazy as it sounds. There's so much evidence to support these, like the dragon in Morocco, the giant fish. I don't know what else to say. People go, "Oh, you're crazy, you're absolutely nuts." Well, maybe I am. Maybe you are. Who knows? Anyway, now we're in our own age. Now, Hesiod's age, the Iron Age. So here we go. We're coming out of the Age of Heroes. That's pretty much done. And Zeus is going to make another race. So the Iron Age, finally Zeus creates the last race of man called the Iron Age, where Hesiod puts himself. It is a time of constant stress and labor. Morality is toast. Men are constantly opposing each other, arguing like hell continuously, lying and seeding mistrust. Straight across the board. It's a time where humans grow old quickly and are constantly beset by troubles and pressures. How far wrong can this be? At the peak of this age, people will no longer feel shame, not whatsoever, or regret at wrongdoing, and there will be no help against evil. There's none. I don't see any help against evil. I see evil growing. Mankind will be forsaken by the gods and goddesses, and Zeus is set to return one day to destroy this race just like he had done in the past. And I don't see I see no way out of this. I got to be honest with you, my friends. Once you go into this violence that this world is in now, hatred escalates. It does not settle until something unbelievable happens. Hatred's a hard thing to change, especially when you killed somebody that was somebody loved, or you accidentally killed somebody loved, or it's just a terrible, terrible situation. This extreme violence, absolutely terrible. And getting back to this, we're talking about the end of time coming at some point, and my end of time's coming. I can tell you that, and yours is too. So at that point, you better start have an idea, some kind of a plan, you know what I'm saying? A 401 eternity plan. Something like that, because, that's going to happen one way or the other. Now, how it ends up, that's a good question. But all I know, here's my plan, and here's my advice. I don't want to give you advice. Don't take my advice. If it makes sense to you, good. All I know is you see what we just read. Violence, killing, slaughter, and craziness of every single conceivable thing. And now you've got a guy, Jesus came, he said, hey, don't do this stuff. Be nice to your people. All this good stuff. Love, peace, friendship, brotherly love, golden rule, heal your friends, help them. And look for me. I will be the one that'll save you in the end. I will take you where we want people like you. All right? Because if I owned that place, I wouldn't want you if you weren't like that. I wouldn't want people that were liars and cheaters and stealers and always trying to take advantage and all that stuff. That's not good. And that's just what's happening now. That's actually applauded now. That is the thing that is the real rub. That's the rub. And they teach you literally in some of these academic situations, how to take advantage. Right? How to take advantage of people. Especially the legal profession and things like that. They have worded things so that not a single person can work within that system, and you end up having to pay them, and they can protect themselves and their friends in politics because they make the rules. And you can't even understand the rules. But when you go to get there and ask about the rules, they're so confusing that you end up going in jail no matter what you have to say. Because you can't say what you have to say because you don't know the rules. All right? It's not a good society right now. That's my feeling, and I'm sorry, that's just a fact. And I guess that's it. All right? Mudfossil University, God loves you if you love God.